Welcome to Cash Talk, the podcast where we delve into the depths of finance, business, and life itself. I'm your host, John Cachia, a multi-award-winning wealth advisor with a passion for empowering ambitious Australians to confidently achieve financial freedom. Hey everyone, before we get started, this is a quick reminder that everything in this podcast is of a general nature and nothing has been tailored to your personal circumstances. So please seek personal financial advice before acting on this information. And welcome back to Cash Talk. And today I'm joined by Anth. Anth, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks yourself.
Not bad. Getting back into this podcast rhythm. For a little bit there, I was not talking due to my tooth. So, yeah, feels like ages ago, but absolutely loving back and being on the podcast and obviously sharing some insights that hopefully people are finding very valuable. But today we're going to be covering around what it actually means to be on track when it comes to your finances. And I know, Anthony, we create these amazing plans, we create these amazing roadmaps for, individuals, and, a big portion is first about getting clarity over their financial future and having that plan. But we want to make sure that these plans come to life because these are people's dreams and aspirations. And, you get a dream, create that into a goal, then into a plan, and then it's around executing that. So there's going to be a few things that we're covering today, but, this is what you're doing every day, mate, bringing these dreams into a reality. So, yeah. Over to you, because I know you've got a few things that you want to cover.
Yeah, so one of the probably the main points that I wanted to discuss was when people are trying to think about whether they're on track or not, it usually goes to income. If I'm earning good income, then we're putting ourselves in a good position. But it's not always the case. Often when the bigger the income, the bigger the expenses. And what I really like to focus on is the surplus cash flow and having a look at the difference between what's going in and what's going out and trying to increase that gap. Because you could be a family earning $150,000 or a family earning $350,000, and you could still be in the same overall position because the larger income earners have a much higher level of debt, their expenses, their lifestyle's a lot different. So it's just really trying to focus on, all right, where is that surplus cash flow and what are we doing with it? And that's really going to be the difference maker.
So one of the key things you're looking for is, are they actually on track of their surplus targets? And we often say that when we're working with clients that surplus cash flow is like oxygen, especially for your finances, because if you don't have surplus cash flow, you feel like you're financially strangling. And it is because it is the heartbeat. It's the oxygen which flows through from the heartbeat of your personal cash flow to then pump into the areas that it needs to pump into, being debts, investments, or whatnot. And so what do you see, maybe if we focus off track, what are common things that you see where people find themselves off track when it comes to their cash flow?
Yeah, well, we're setting savings goals, and let's say we're allocating $1,000 a month into savings, and we're going 5 months down the track, and there's not an extra $5,000 in savings. Well, okay, what's gone wrong? Why is our savings target not being met? And that's usually a really easy indicator to figure out. And sometimes there may be reasons for it, like yes, maybe there's something that's come up. There's been a car service or something like that. But if
that was higher than expected, or there was an emergency that needed to happen, but that's why we also have cash buffers as well too.
Correct. But if you're finding yourself making excuses, that's when you usually know that you're not on track. I think that's sort of the default position that people fall back on when they're not where they're meant to be. It's thinking of excuses to reason why they're not there, where sometimes we just go, okay, like what's happened has happened. Now we just need to kick into gear and make sure we're getting to where we need to get to.
Yeah, understand. And so obviously then on track is around, meeting those surplus targets if they be savings targets. But, it's also around the two main things, which is overall hitting your income targets and hitting your expense targets. And we're very focused on, hitting those targets for our clients. And a lot of our clients exceed those targets. And that's why they continue to kind of accelerate and achieve their goals as well too. And especially when it comes to our plans, we try to be quite conservative in regards to these income targets because we want to kind of base the plan on a more conservative approach and obviously smash those numbers as well. But there is sometimes a little bit of self-sabotage for off track. And what I'm meaning by that, Ant, is around having obviously your a cash flow system where when you get paid, money is allocated. We're managing those targets. We've got rules and around which accounts can be used for what. We've obviously got we're working with them on their spending habits and their behaviours. But there's also the one around we're looking forward. And so, I realistically think that I'm going to earn 180, for example, this year. And then, we push them on it, and then reality hits and it's 165. Now, I don't think that most people are doing it to intentionally screw up their own plans, but some people have the behavior to be more optimistic and more aspirational than realistic. Yeah. And we constantly say that, we're trying to bring people with scarcity into realization or realist position. And we're trying to build people who have that kind of spender mindset into this realist position. And you find that most likely that it's the spender who has the over optimistic number. Now, you miss your income target, it deviates from the plan. Obviously, there's solutions and there's workarounds in regards to trying to get back on track. But today's session's about, how do you know if you're on track? So a lot of our clients are obviously exceeding their numbers. They're exceeding their targets, but these are common things. And I think a lot of it has to do with the behavior of that individual.
Yeah, like you said, income's another one that we track. So each year we want to be elevating income. So we want to be earning more than what you were earning in the previous year, because you got to think about it. With inflation, everything's going up around you. So we want to make sure that income is growing faster than what expenses are, and then tracking that. So what we often do, I do it a lot with my clients, is once they've been with us for a little while now, we can have a look, okay, what was the roadmap when we first started? Where were we? What was our incomes? Where did we say our incomes were going to be in 3 years' time? And then have a look at the current modeling and reflect back, okay, incomes exceeded what we've expected it to be, which is why we've got an extra 10% in our savings account, and why we're able to allocate an extra 5% into investments now than what we previously thought. And then you can really see the gap where, okay, because of all this happening, income's growing. That means we're getting more SG contributions, superannuation balances are growing, and instead of being on track to pay debt off in 10 years, we're on track to pay debt off in 8 years. And then it's really fulfilling seeing that, because it looks great to see what your life looks like in the future. But then when you can go back and have a look at, okay, what did we plan for, and being ahead of that, it's really, really good.
If you think about it, Anth, like, it's really good that you kind of use that like 3-year kind of window, because like building wealth is a long-term game, and everyone's heard this, and it's around really when you're in it, remembering that it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And so sometimes year on year, it's not linear.
100%.
Yeah, there's a little bit of ups and downs, and it's that reflection point over 3 years, and then over 5 years, and then so on and so forth. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, Anth, about like watching the grass grow sometimes in the first 2 or 3 years. You just feel like there's still a seedling, somewhere. When's it going to kind of come? When's it going to come? And you've got to be patient. Warren Buffett talks about it in investments around, how important it is to being patient. And building wealth is exactly the same thing. It takes time. It takes consistency. So be patient, be resilient. And also, I think the other thing is, Anth, is just back onto what you were talking about, is there's also a very common cohort with us that they smash their targets, and then they're always working to someone like with Anth and saying, what's next? What's next? Okay. And these people are probably the most common people that we actually work with. The ones that want to smash their targets, want to smash their numbers, want to smash their plan. And when I mean that, they want to tick all of them off, and then it's what's next. Yeah. What's next? Is it, and when I mean what's next, it's not necessarily the upgrade of the car and the stuff like that. It's like, okay, cool. We've got us working to say 63. Can we bring that to 60? What do I need to do to make that happen? Hey, Anth, is there any opportunity for us to be able to kind of buy an investment property that we could maybe use down the track as a holiday home? Things like that. You get that common as well too.
100%. And I think it's important as well, like you said, the first couple of years of really getting your wealth creation started is really about laying the foundations, getting the structure right, and just sort of learning the way. And then we really see those flowers start to grow in like year 3, year 4, when you have the time. Because when you look at like the power of compounding interest and how fantastic it is, it does take time for that to come into effect. So sometimes people think that, I don't know, things happen overnight, and it's a bit unrealistic. But once you wait and you stick to it, you stick to the process, you put in the hard work, and you see the results, it's really, really fantastic to see how much things can develop and change over a small amount of time. Like, it doesn't need to be 20 plus years to see this stuff happening. It's like a couple of years, you really start to see the difference. And when you say like, what's next? Like, that might be, all right, we set a savings target first, and we go, all right, let's get, I don't know, 50%, let's say 3 months worth of living expenses as your savings target. Once we hit that, then okay, we start to invest. And then once we start investing X amount and we're able to do that consistently, we may increase how much we're investing. And then just like little targets are really good, because that's an easy way to tell if you're on track, because if you're able to hit those targets, a little sort of milestone to say, yeah, we're doing what we need to be doing. And if we're hitting it sooner, then we're ahead of schedule. If we're falling a little bit behind, okay, why has that happened? What do we need to do to make up that ground?
And what's very interesting, obviously, I've been doing this for many, many years, and so has Anthony now. And, you reflect on the clients that kind of stick at it and, do it for a decade plus. Their lives are transformed, like absolutely transformed. But the reality is that people need to be patient. Yeah. And, you speak to any kind of long-term orientated things such as your health and whatnot. If you sat a personal trainer here and you said, how many of your clients have been with you for 10 years? The number is smaller than, and the reality is that we all know the health is really important. Yeah. And it's around not having just your wealth as just a motivation for 12 months. It needs to be a part of who you are. Okay. And so, I kind of say, if you think about like, I want to be financially fit, that's who I am. I'm the person who wants to be financially fit. Well, you need to become the person that is financially fit. That's who you're known to be. So it's around first 2-3 years is me being financially fit. From that point on, I am now financially fit. That's who I am. But now that I'm fit, what's my capability? Where do I need to go next? Yeah. And so we're looking at not just like what Anthony's saying, the metrics in regards to the numbers around sticking to the plan, but also has your behavior started to change? Yeah. Have you started to create that identity of, yes, I know that my super's taken care of, my investments are taken care of, all of this is taken care of, and I have the plan. But now what can I do to start really taking advantage of my financial fitness? Can I work with my advisor for me to go to that next level? Okay. Can we move the bar on what we previously planned to be something that's even better, more fulfilling for us? Okay. And that's where Anthony's talking about building the foundations before you start to really get into more accelerated, more advanced financial freedom systems.
Correct. I've got a question for you. And where do you know the difference between knowing what you want and just building as much wealth as possible? Because I find sometimes that gets blurred, where people just say, yeah, we want to build up our assets, we want to make as much money as we can. But there's always an underlying goal there. Like, what do people want? Like, is it we want to set up our kids? Do we want to, I don't know, we want to upgrade our house? We want to be in that position where we can travel the world in retirement. And where do you draw that line where, okay, we just want to build wealth, or there's a purpose behind it?
So most people that I see, and I'm very much on the front end, so I see a lot of like the new clients and whatnot, and obviously I've worked with many of our clients through the whole process, but I would say most people initially, I need to build wealth because I'm not happy fundamentally with where I'm at. The problem is that most people don't know what makes them happy and makes them fulfilled. So if you're feeling like, how can I say this? If you're feeling unhappy in your situation, is more money going to solve it? And it's a question you honestly need to ask yourself, because most people, and you know this, if they get major windfalls, they blow it and then they feel miserable again. And the reality is the first thing that people go to think about is me going and blowing it on a new car, a new house, a new jet, and like depending on how big this windfall is. I would argue that that's something that you really need to think on before you do your wealth plan. And this is where we kind of come in to say, okay, well, all right. Yes, we want to make more money. Yes, we want to build wealth. But what are we pointing it to? Are we pointing your money into just creating more money that is ultimately going to still remain in that frustrated situation where I feel like I never have enough? Because are you just fueling that kind of invisible ladder to the skies that never ends? Or you're actually pointing your money to what makes you truly fulfilled? And what makes you truly fulfilled is very unique to you. Very unique to you, because what makes me fulfilled is different to what makes Anthony fulfilled, and what Anthony makes you fulfilled is different to you. And so we need to build wealth to get people out of the rat race, out of the what's going in to what's going out. But as soon as you get out from what's going into what's going out, you get into this nice area, which is where you're growing. But then you kind of lack clarity, because you're like, okay, I've got so many different options. which way do I go? And we'll use, just for example, let's say by the numbers perspective, the best thing to do is to rip out all your equity in your home, whack 100% of it into the stock market in the S&P 500, for example. Let's say you modeled that out and that was the best thing for you to do financially. And would you just take that into consideration?
Well, then, like you said, it comes down to what your goals are. Like, is my goal that I would just want to be debt free and I want to live a comfortable lifestyle, or do I want to do whatever I need to do to build a mass amount of wealth so that I could go buy a jet or whatever it may be?
So let's say, for example, financially speaking, that's the best thing for you to do, like you said. Okay, let's say we model it out and it's the best thing to do. But that also means that you've got to work 9 to 5, yeah, or 9 to 9, depending on what your job is, yeah. You got to work till you're 70, yeah, because you don't want to do X, Y, and Z. Now, you might say, hey, that's not what I want. You know, I want to have time with my children. I want to make so is time more important than money? Yeah. Time is more important than money. Okay, cool. Well, how much of your wealth can we trade off to what you truly care about, which is time? You know, and this week my son started walking. Yeah, my little one. And I've chosen to work from home majority of the time. I've chosen to be around my family. And obviously money helped that position, and I'm not frowning away from that. But if I didn't do that and I didn't have the arrangement with my family and I worked, I would make more money. But my family time and my time with my family is more important, and no money can justify that for me right now in my position to stop me from doing that. And so I choose for me to go down that angle. Now, a lot of people, for example, which is actually becoming more common now, Anth, that a lot of mothers want to take extended periods of time if they can with their children in the first year or two. Okay, and you see this all the time and then transition back to work. That is a money trade-off. Financially speaking, the best thing to do is not take any time off and go straight back into it. Bring your kid to work and breastfeed them if your work allows you. Like, you're not going to do that. I know it sounds ludicrous, but I'm trying to emphasize what makes you fulfilled. Now, there's people as well too that don't see a dollar of value when it comes to holidays. Like me and my brother, same DNA. You know, mother and father still the same. And you know my brother, you know me, and my brother is happy to not go on overseas holidays. That's not who he is. You know, he's got his different things which we don't need to get into, but two brothers, same DNA, two different goals, two different ways of living life. And for people that know me and my brother, we are literally, might look similar, but totally different. But do you know what I mean, Ant? Like,
yeah, 100%.
So like imagine I put a plan even in place where I was pointing my brother's money for him to go on overseas holidays all the time. Like, he'd hate it. That's not what he wants.
That's why everyone's so different. That's why we have to. It's like every plan's customized to that person, because you may be a holiday person, you may be a car person, you may be a house person. You want to upgrade to get that dream home down the track, and then it's like you said, it's a trade-offs. Are you willing to work an extra 5 years to get this goal to happen? And some people might say, yes, I would love to have that dream house. And if I have to work an extra 5 years so we can pay it off and live comfortably in retirement, I'm more than happy to do that. But other people might say, no, I want to retire as early as I can, and I'm willing to forgo that house or those overseas trips. So it's just, yeah, like you said, it's finding what makes people tick, and then building a plan around that.
And the two things that I think are the most, like, how can I put this? The two things that kind of scare me, and I reckon they scare a lot of people. Number one that scares me the most is thinking when I'm older, near my deathbed, what if? What if I done that? What if I done that? Now that's half of the scary one. The other scary one is I'm not living the life that I want. And what I mean by that is around, are you truly living your life? So imagine me on my deathbed and I have the realization to say, I got the bigger house because everyone was getting the bigger house. I got the bigger car and the nice fancy car because everyone else got it that. But really, I didn't want that. I did that for everyone else. I didn't do it for me. I wanted to go see the world, but it wasn't for me. Like, it obviously contributes into both of them, but Anth, it's around I want to live my life on my terms. And our clients want to live their life on their terms. And they're not willing to think, what if If they want, and it's high that's importance, they want to educate their children at private schools, is this what you want or is this what someone else wants? Is it the status that you're looking for? Is it truly what you want? When you're on your deathbed, are you going and saying that was an amazing decision and I'm so glad I gave the opportunity to put my kids in private school, and you have a smile on your face? Like, then you point the money to there, and then along the way, you're going to be tested on those things that are valuable to you and make you fulfilled. You're going to be tested because everyone's in your ear, everyone's giving you their opinion. But if you stand true to what makes you truly fulfilled and then point your money towards that and then have someone keeping you accountable to ensure you're on track, well, where are you going to end up? You're going to end up in a beautiful position where each year you feel closer to making yourself more fulfilled and making yourself more fulfilled. And to the point in which you're financially free and fulfilled. Amazing situation. You wake up every day doing what you want on your terms. Your money is not restricting you. You have financial security. You have financial independence. And then you work your way to financial abundance. And financial abundance is the point in which you have more than what you need and you're looking to build wealth beyond you. And this is where you find people, Ant, that are, and you know this, is around what's the legacy I want to leave? Okay. For me, I have my own legacy that I want to leave. What does John want to be remembered for? The impact that he's had with families across Australia, the passion that I've had to help people with financial literacy, the mentorship of individuals along the way, and obviously the guidance of my children and so on. That's me, but that's abundance. That's where you have to go through those stages. Where people go wrong, Anth, going back to your particular question, is they're not chasing them to what makes them more fulfilled. They're not having strategies that are moving them closer to financial freedom. And I'm not saying that this is a part of our clients, because to be honest with you, you wouldn't be a client of Thriving Wealth unless we're going and pointing in that direction. And obviously we're talking about when we're talking with our clients, it's more sometimes you drift off course and you need to be brought back on, or sometimes you get me what I mean. It's not this major off course. But the people that I see come in, yesterday I was speaking to a prospective client. They were completely off course. Completely. They were earning $350,000 combined, roughly, give or take. 3 credit cards, personal loans, car loans, absolutely everything. And he was more concerned about, can he rip out all of his super, which was like $150,000, and put it into a self-managed super fund, and also investing in high-risk strategies, then trying to do what you said and build the foundations, build a proper system, have a plan in place. And it was chasing the outcome. And we understand that you want to get your wealth fix. You want to move yourself from being frustrated to feeling amazing and feeling fulfilled. But if you do not build your financial house with the right foundations, it is going to be crumbled down. Now, what is worse? Going slowly in your 30s to say your 40s, with financial stability and incremental change over the time, or going in your 30s, going on a high-risk strategy only to be crushed, let's say, by your 40s and lose 10 years of proper foundations. The cost of getting it wrong, you talked about even before about compounding interest and compounding gains. Have a look at compounding losses. Have a look about the people that I've spoken to over the many, many, many years that have rocked up 1 or 2 years before they were expected to retire, only to realize, oh crap, what have I done?
Yeah, and this sort of brings me on to another point that I wanted to discuss too, which I find really interesting. It's people relying too much on their income and not doing anything, not allocating that income to assets. So they get to retirement and they've paid off their house, fantastic, but all they've got is a house. They haven't used that income to make it work for them, and they've got nothing. So that leaves them in a position where they can't retire.
So it's interesting, Anth, because superannuation is a great asset. Okay, Australia's like shining light. Okay, but in 20 years' time, everyone's going to have superannuation. Like, you get me what I mean? It's just more money in the system, less off the social security. So as we know, if everyone's got it, what that means is that we need to be doing more than everyone to actually live in that better environment. So, and obviously we're talking about 20 years from now. Okay, you need to invest, crush your debt, and then spend. Okay? So think about it. You earn, that you put for your financial future, and you get rid of the money you've borrowed from your future. Then you spend. Now, the problem I see is that's not happening, Ed. With most people that are coming through the door or inquiring is they earn their money, they spend their money, and then they worry about their future. And if they still don't have enough, they borrow from their future. Because when you borrow debt, mortgage, car loans, personal loans, all you're saying is taking from your future income and bringing it today. I want $50,000. Well, you've got to pay that back. So I'm going to take from my future income and bring it to today. Future income and bring it to today. Future income and bring it. You keep on doing that process. Where are you ended up? Now, talk about the people that do it right. Let's say you take 20% of your income and you allocate it to investments. Say, yes, you're getting an 80% haircut, but set yourself an income goal. There was a person yesterday that I said, listen, hey, you're not earning enough, to be honest with you. This was the number one problem. Go away and negotiate with your employer to get some more income. But also what I was, and I didn't have it in this discussion, was, okay, cool. If he gets that pay rise and he's actually still surviving right now, that pay rise is going to fund his future. Now, you do that, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, all of a sudden in investments, okay, cool. Now we've got 1 year's worth of income. Then we've got 2 years worth of income. Then we've got compounding. You do that over time, and then before you know it, you're not relying on your income. The problem is, once again, is more people are focused on taking from their future income rather than giving to their future income. And it sounds very logical. So if you keep taking ads from your future income and not giving any to your future income, what's happening to your future income? Now, the people that are getting it right are getting it really right. I was walking today with one of my friends, and we were just talking about the disparity between the classes. And you got to be living under a rock to not see it.
Yeah.
The classes of wealth is becoming very apparent in Australia, where I grew up in a very much broad middle class. The middle class is being obliterated. You're having the middle class who are moving down to the lower social economic. The social economic have really a very limited way to kind of get themselves out of it. And the wealthy are making bucket loads. They're making bucket loads, but you can take that two ways. You can take it, if you're in that middle class social economic area, you could take it one as, I'm done, head in the sand, or go, no, it's never been a better time for me to draw a line in the sand and go forward. And this is where you need to draw a line in the sand and go forward. And you might think, oh, yeah, but it's too hard. Well, is that hard? Or is it hard to, when you're in a situation where you can't afford the things you don't live life fulfilled. Think, oh, what if I could have done that? So first and foremost, you need to see if you're off track. What I mean by are you off track? Are you off track in where you want to be in life, first and foremost? And if the answer is yes, you are off track from where you need to be, what's the action you're taking to get on track? And I would argue if you try to do it yourself, that's where you need to go see someone. Yeah? And you need to see someone like us that's going to build a plan to get you back on track. Now, that might take time. It might not happen overnight. It's like Anthony said, sometimes it's like 2 or 3 years to kind of, sometimes it's 6 months, but you get me what, sometimes it's longer because there's a bigger gap between off track and on track. And then we get you on track about where you need to be. But then it's around, okay, cool. Then from there, it's around thriving. It's around thriving to get to where you ultimately want to be, which is an amazing financial future for you and for your family as well. I hope I answered your question, Eth.
It was good.
Yeah? Guys, I thank you for jumping on and listening and watching these podcasts. If you're absolutely loving these, make sure that you pass them on to your friends and family. And thanks for jumping on. Thanks for giving me your insights. I really love what you're doing with a lot of Australians that need this support. So, mate, great work. See you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.